You wanna dive into this thing?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So Ty, you're my producer for
Yes.
this podcast, for the business podcast.
Yes, sir.
And you wanted to come on here.
I'm willing to
You
come on
wanted to
here.
talk to me about something. What the hell do you want to talk to me about?
I guess. Well, let's start with the content creation because that's been like a pretty big journey for us both. At
Yeah.
first, it was literally just like putting captions on videos, and now it's this whole like let's provide value. We got to meet these metrics with the videos and all that shit.
Yeah.
So
What do you want to talk about on this front?
I guess I'll start with where I started with that. I used
Okay.
to just make music and stuff, the instrumentals, and I had a friend who was like, "You should put that stuff on YouTube." So I have another friend who did video editing for a while. He did it for the school news, and I was like, "Oh, I kind of want to get into that." So I picked up Premiere Pro, and I didn't really know a lot about it. I was pretty shit with it, to be completely honest with you. But I would take these like static images of artists, like for instance, like I do funk beats. So this one funk artist, Dabil, take a lot of pictures of him and another singer that he works with, kind of thing, and just use that as like a static image throughout the whole thing. Throw some text on it, audio, and that would be my YouTube content for a little while. So I did that for a whole year of just posting that stuff, and I would get like 10 views, 6 views, a whole bunch. So it was like kind of demoralizing. I watched a whole bunch of tutorials on like SEO and stuff about like people talking about, oh, you got to use this kind of title and then put your title in the description and the tags. And then it all kind of clicked when I got TubeBuddy, had this little SEO score thing, and I just literally spent a whole week optimizing my videos until they were all like 90.
Yeah.
And then from there, it wasn't like they started performing or anything, but then when I finally had like a beat that was like in a niche that people cared about, that wasn't just like, oh, this is one of 1,000 rap beats that probably got posted today on YouTube. It was a funk beat. That one started outperforming the other ones, and I had the analytics I needed to like start going in that direction and niching down there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you're going through that and you're doing all this shit and you're like, oh man, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And then you find this, do you think, because now you're doing that as literally your
Yeah.
job is finding these things and putting the content out for these different podcasts that we're doing. Like, do you actually like that process of going in and finding these, or is that something that you learned to like because you started seeing the results?
It's kind of cool. I'm still not great with identifying, like I'm better with what I think people would engage with than like finding search terms and that kind of stuff that I think work. I use
So making the stuff actually good,
yeah,
where you think people will want to engage with it.
pretty much.
Yeah, because I
It's,
mean, the stuff that we're seeing since you started, so you started our YouTube, basically you started our YouTube channel growth. That was kind of one of the things that you just picked up and took over. Because when you came on, it was pretty much like, hey, I'm putting these videos out and then I'm trying to promote the episodes. And you were like, hey, have you used YouTube Shorts? Like, let's put it
Yeah.
out there. So we took all that old content and we put it out, and then you just stuck with it. I think was probably the biggest thing initially.
Well, we had so much like content just like from everything. We had like 30 interviews before that. So
Yeah.
I didn't have that for my channel. I had seen like other YouTubers and actually beat makers. I had seen them like just post like little clips of their beats, and they would blow up, and I would be like, huh. I didn't really know how shorts worked. I've never used TikTok really. I never used Instagram Reels, so I didn't understand like, oh, you can make a video blow up without search traffic or any of that stuff.
Yeah. I see this stuff. It's funny because like this stuff doesn't really interest me at all.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. I have no interest in it, which is why I never really did it, which is why I was super thankful when you came on and you were like, hey, dude, check out this analytics tab. When you look at here, here, and here, you'll notice this is where this comes from. And I was like, all right, shit. I'm glad you're into it because I don't know, something about it. It's not that my brain shuts off, and if I'm in the right mood, when you present it to me at the right time, I'm like, okay, I see this is cool, and we'll do all this stuff. But I don't know if this can actually be a very valuable thing for you as you go and you grow your career and understand all this stuff, because you kind of have learned a trade.
A little bit, yeah.
You know, it's a digital trade, but it is something that a lot of people don't want to dig into and they don't want to deal with. And it's, like I literally hired you
Yeah.
and I paid you to do that. And then now that you're going to go work for Vessel Vanguard and all that stuff, and like you're going to get paid to do that. It's like you're getting to trade like that expertise for money.
It's kind of the best opportunity I could have been given, because to say that I didn't see this coming, to say that I didn't see this as like a job that I could do, that's an understatement. I had no idea anything about this until I really like came here and got to experiment with it.
Yeah.
But
It's been cool. Like and I didn't expect that this stuff would happen or that would go this
I
way.
had no clue. It's kind of crazy. Going back to the analytics though, I know what you mean, because yesterday I had to run the analytics on the shorts, and I tried to drive to class after that, and fucking people were trying to cut me off and shit. I was just not in that like mindset. It was
Yeah.
like bring myself back to the real world kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like the way your dad put it. If you're like doing admin work or like financial or like anything with analytics, you need to be locked in a dark room.
Away from
Yeah.
reality, away from the real world.
It's
Well, that's a part that I was just talking to Ned, the guy I was talking to on the phone about this of the blurred lines of of social media versus the real world. And he was heavy into LinkedIn and all that stuff and kind of some of the thought leadership stuff. And he kind of stepped away from tech and tech sales and all this shit. And and I asked him like, "Hey, do you feel like now that you're in more of a like selling solar and stuff like that, do you feel like you're in the real world more?" And he's like, "That's a good way to put it." Because sometimes I know I get caught up with this of like, "Hey, how does this stuff translate to the real world?" And I don't know, as owning the company and running it and trying to do that and put the stuff out there myself, I felt myself in a weird spot of where do I focus more of my time on this or the real world? It was a tough that was a tough part of running the business and trying to decide where I allocate the time. And it really split my mind and my directives and my motivation. So that actually could play into like why you have a marketable skill. Like you've literally worked directly with the owner of a company
yeah.
to do that. You're going to go work with another owner of a company to do that. Like that's maybe that's a key thing that you can think about as you go through this stuff is like what can I do to not split the owner or like the executive level?
Mm.
Like what can I do to not split their attention between the real
That's
world and the digital world?
that's always been a problem of mine as an employee. I didn't I think working here and being in my own like kind of music licensing shit, I learned a little bit about being more of like being more confident with like what I'm doing and like not asking so many questions. Even at like my old jobs that were like super simple, like food service shit, I would ask questions about fucking everything. I would harass like my managers into like my girlfriend was talking to me about it last night. Like the kind of people that like ask you how to use a fucking mop. That was me.
Yeah.
I would ask every question because I was so scared to do something wrong, and I can't imagine like how fucking annoyed like managers and like employers and shit like that were with me because they just wanted someone that like could do the job and like I don't know. I'm learning more about like being a part of it than like trying to do things right.
Why do you think that is from doing this job?
Just see, like you just said it, like splitting your mind kind of thing. Like you need someone to handle that for you, not like present it to you kind of thing. That's what
That's a
I'm
good way of
learning.
putting it. That is a very good way of putting it. Because you're not looking for like somebody to just identify the
And
problem.
digest it for you kind of thing. Like you're looking to eliminate the problem. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. Because that's one thing that my parents have always said as they like ran businesses and stuff is like a lot of people worry that if they have a job and they find a better way to do it, that they're like worried that they'll eliminate their job and then they won't have a job. But their whole thing was like, if you can find a way to eliminate your own
yeah.
job, then you'll be even more valuable to that company.
Because
So
then you can teach people too, kind of thing. Like,
exactly, you can teach people, and then you can take over. That's a good point. It's like you can take over that chunk of their mind that was thinking about this kind of stuff, and then you take on the full thought of it, like as a marketing director kind of role,
yeah,
and then you can teach people how to roll this stuff out, and they can take care of chopping up the clips,
yeah,
posting the content, doing the search. But I don't know. Part of it is like you got to be able to teach people as much as you can. Like, do you feel okay? So, do you feel like by doing what you've done so far, do you feel like you could teach people this?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I'm like anywhere where I want to be in terms of like knowing everything. I still have so many questions, but I could definitely answer the questions for other people.
Yeah. Well, you got a long way to go.
Yeah,
How do you look at time? You're 19, right?
yeah.
Do
Turn
you,
20 soon, but
so, ha- general question, how do you view time?
I was thinking about this the other day. It's like such a weird asset because you don't like it's. I don't mean this in like a dark way, but like you don't know how much you have. It's like kind of weird spending it. Like, oh, I'm gonna spend a year learning this. It's like hard to think like that. So I don't know. I like to do things pretty impulsively. That's not a good way to be, but I don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about a lot of the stuff that I do, and I'm pretty in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I am too. And I kind of jump to things. One thing I learned about time was when I did that road trip when I was like 22. I went on a road trip around the US, like 7 weeks, just driving in my car to all these different places and sleeping on people's couches and doing all this stuff. I was fucking lost, dude. Everybody I knew called it a quarter life crisis because I was 22.
Jeez.
And so I think I'm
That's
going to
like
make it to 88.
learn a lot from that though. Like just like getting around the country, like probably learn about a lot about yourself too, like putting yourself in that kind of situation. Like,
Big time. Yeah, you learn how to be like versatile. And because so it was weird to see how time changed or how I thought of time because I always thought of time as like Monday through Sunday, like Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday. Um, and one of the weird things about driving across the country, especially driving more so than flying, is that as you drive, it takes a longer amount of time. And if you've never done it before, all these places are new. So, in a way, each place that you drive to for 8, 10, 12 hours, that's a whole day of learning
yeah,
because you're literally taking in new information. And if you're paying attention, you're kind of learning. And so, one of the weird things about it was that um, time went very slow, but in like the best way possible. Like every day,
in the moment.
yeah, every day on that trip was a long ass day in a really good way. Like I felt every hour. I felt every like
I know what you mean. Yeah,
experience. I felt every stop at a gas station. Like I had the time to perceive it. It was I don't know, I'd recommend if you have the chance to do
I
something
really
like
would
that.
love to do something like that.
Yeah, but the way that I did it was, I did have to like work for a while to make it happen. So I was working since I was 14 and
Mm,
saving up money, spent a bunch of money. Like I was not reckless. I don't want to say like, oh, I was reckless with money, but just like kid shit. Like, yeah, just like spend, not really save that much, all that stuff.
I'm
Uh,
awful with my money.
Yeah, and maybe that's something to think about as you go forward is like how you can save and put money away and learn some of the basics of budgeting because I still am not great with it better than I was but um like doing stuff like that can give you the ability to be like fuck it, I'm gonna go for 2 months and go on this trip. And I think the overall trip cost me like 6 grand or something,
Hmm,
so it wasn't too
yeah,
bad. It might be more expensive now with gas and stuff, but maybe it costs like 8 grand or something like that. And it's if you can work and save up enough and you've got kind of an idea of where you'd want to go and just try to stay at the cheapest places possible. Hostels, stay with friends. I stayed with like an aunt and an uncle that I had never met in
hmm,
Washington. And my dad hadn't even seen them since the 70s. So it was like
jeez.
just different stuff like that. That was a cool experience, man.
I definitely want to do some stuff like that. I think I had a mini experience like that. I had never driven more than an hour, and I had to drive to Orlando,
Was
which
that
is
when you started working?
yeah. I
Really?
yeah I barely drove around it. Like when I first started driving, I would just go around town. It was mostly like 10-minute drives, like to and from my house, and then my girlfriend moved out to Palmetto, so I would have to go out to like the fairgrounds. That's like 30 minutes from my house, and I just kind of got used to like 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back twice a day. So I got in the habit of like a longer drive. But then Orlando was something different. I had never been on a highway and seen like 3 lanes of just empty. Like that was the coolest thing. I just have this like vivid memory of like being on fuck, where was it? Like
75 or I-4?
it was 75. It was like middle Florida, kind of like after Arcadia, but before like Winter Park or anything. That's like a really big area, but like kind of by like Wachula, I think, right
Okay.
before there. There's just like this giant stretch of like cows and like all that shit. It was really cool.
Yeah. It's a cool experience.
Yeah.
What did you learn from it?
Fuck. I panicked a whole bunch before that trip.
I remember.
Yeah, I thought my tires were gonna like explode, even though they were new. I didn't realize what a tire rotation was. I thought I had to like get all new tires. I was like panicked about that. I didn't realize my car had the oil leaks. I didn't. I guess that wasn't like really on my mind, but it was just car struggles. Like that was taught me a lot about like preparation and like doing that shit better because it was very impulsive, like going there in the first place.
Do you feel like so when I like mildly chastised you and kept saying to you need to go to Orlando for that
Yeah.
weekend, was that helpful or no?
No, that was. I
Okay.
really wanted to do that. It wasn't that didn't want to do that. Well, I think fuck, I'm trying to remember why I went to Orlando in the first place that weekend
It
cuz
was like Halloween, I think, and it was to go hang out with like friends or something like that. And I remember you like sat down and you were like, "Hey, I want to do this. Like I want to go." And I was like, "Okay, you should go." And then pretty much immediately, I think you gave me like 30 reasons why you couldn't go and you're like,
yeah.
yeah, but like I heard that there was clouds up in Tampa, and like I've been around clouds, and like sometimes they're like shaped like an animal, and like that
Sometimes they
can,
rain,
yeah,
like
sometimes they rain, and like sometimes it's just like a weird shape, and I don't like when clouds are weird shapes, and it was just like literally some of the things
smallest
that
reasons.
you were
Yeah.
saying to me. I was like, this is fucking stupid. You
Yeah.
need to go, and yeah. Do you feel like this job has helped get you out of
A
your
lot.
comfort zone?
A lot.
Yeah.
I hands-on work with like clients and stuff like that has been a big thing. I never had to like I had done customer service before, but it was just like putting people's foods in bags and handing it to them and shit like that. I never had to like be responsible for this person on a fucking camera. Like
Yeah.
and also talking to them like after the interview and that stuff. Like that was definitely a big thing, but also just sitting next to you. Like I had never seen cold calls. I had never seen any of that shit. I learned a lot about sales. I learned a lot about like talking to people and the way like when I this is something that stuck out to me. When I first saw you scrolling through Instagram, like DMing people like voice messages to like the people that followed you, I thought that was insane, but it immediately clicked in my head. Like nobody else fucking does that. That's gonna like stand out to people.
Yeah.
That's a like good thing to do.
Yeah. Just so you mean so like when people would follow me and I just send the voicemail like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is Chris. Thank you for
Yeah.
following." Yeah.
I
And I,
went
I would sit there and you would see me do it like 10 times in a row. Like
mm.
you get 10 new followers. "Hey, this is Chris. Thanks for following." "Hey, this is Chris. Thanks for following."
I'd never thought to do that because normally, like, you follow a new rapper and they just send you like 3 fucking posts and they expect you to engage with it. Like,
Yeah, you've been tagged in a post. "Hey, dude, I'm glad you connected. Hey, I have this great NFT that I really wanted to share with you.
yeah,
Would you like to learn more?" Fuck off, dude. And
yeah,
and I didn't want to have that experience for people, and I still don't. And it's weird to feel that way sometimes when I want to reach out to somebody for sales, and sometimes I get the feeling like I know I could help them, but then I also get that feeling of I don't want to be that slimy
yeah,
salesperson, and that's always a fine balance. But that's something that comes with doing it a lot and that repetition and getting in the sales mindset. And that's one of the things that I struggled with this business was trying to be in delivery mode and also be in sales mode. It's pretty tough, and and now that I've done this, I have a lot more respect for business owners who start their own business and get money coming in the door and all this stuff cuz I'm not viewing it like a failure, but I'm viewing it like a lesson learned more so for the
I don't.
business.
It's
Yeah.
not a failure at all. You have like contracts still, like and everything. Like this is still actively moving.
No, I know, but when you look at some of these and it's like, hey, like I'm looking for a job right now, like a sales job, and part of me was all concerned, like, what does that look like? What's the perception of that? Will I be perceived as like failure or
I'd be right there too. Yeah,
you, you know?
it's kind of weird, like switching from. Well, I guess I haven't really. Actually, I did. I started working for you the first month that I made $1,000 off of BeatStars. Well, maybe not 1,000 in that month, but that was when money really started coming in. That was when they gave me the contract, and
That's cool.
yeah. But also, when's Huffman coming in?
I don't know. You looking to make some more clips with him?
I'm looking to make some more clips of him. He's got like some of the most engaged with clips.
Yeah, he's a
He
great
has the
speaker,
energy.
man.
Yeah.
He's got the energy. He has the experience. He's like a real person, and that is one thing that's been really cool with doing this is to get to meet all these different people, like to be
That
able,
yeah, hold on.
yeah, to go ahead.
My first podcast that I filmed with you, I had no fucking clue what to expect. I didn't know who was going to walk through that door, and it was DJ Malik. And I
Oh,
was like,
right,
that was the coolest thing ever. And I caught him in the elevator afterwards, and I got his Instagram.
yeah,
That
and
was that was the coolest thing ever.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was like, okay, why?
Well, it was someone in the music industry. Like he was talking, and I was like, huh, I can kind of like completely understand where this guy's coming from. And then he starts talking about, oh, I made Dunk City. Like I was a rapper, and I was like, holy fuck. Like I work with rappers. Like this isn't like some foreign concept to me anymore of like this is some intangible business owner that like is in some industry that I don't understand at all. Like it became like a relatable thing to me instantly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a solid first interview to be in
Yeah.
because he's a good
Yeah.
interview too. Like he knows how to carry it, and he's like he's like a branding expert.
Yeah.
He really like I would say based on looking at his stuff and the way that he does things and the way he puts things out, like he understands branding to like
Absolutely.
a core level. It's been really cool to watch, and they put out good
Yeah.
quality stuff.
I really like the DJ transition stuff he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Makes me want to DJ because I've been told by so many people there's a bunch of money in like DJing, and my dad tells me all the time I got to DJ because it's like a good way to get into parties. It's a good way to meet people. Like you meet other DJs. DJs are how you get your music out there locally. Like
yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I mean, you can explore being a DJ. Why not?
I'm just fucking terrified of parties. Like I've never seen a real DJ at a party. I think the closest thing I've seen to a real like DJ getting paid to do something is I worked at a country club, and like we'd have like DJs do like jazz night and like shit like that. Nothing really. I've been to like a few social scene kind of things, never like a club, but like where people are playing like house music and that kind of stuff. Like in the kava bars, they do that kind of stuff. They
Yeah.
want to kind of feel like a club, but more like a place to hang out than like a place to go after work kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Well, what were we just talking about before this? It was DJ Malik, and then what were we talking about just before?
meeting people on the podcast, I think.
Yeah, that's been a really cool part of this experience too. It's just like the amount of people I get to meet that are just doing cool shit,
Interesting, yeah.
right? And like
don't-
the Derek Faye stuff, like
Yeah,
that
was-
interview was pretty
that
sweet.
snapped me out of some shit. I had such like road rage problems before that, and I just kind of like I don't know what it did. I stopped like getting. I'm still pretty bad with road rage, but I'm like more like whatever. Like move on, focus on like what really matters, kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I like the post I did today about being delusionally confident in yourself. I'm nowhere near like where I would like want to be. But when I was like, I remember vividly walking home from school, like on a bus, and just like kind of being alone, kind of being like, oh, I guess I'm like doing my homework when I get home and shit. But thinking about being like on a stage or like in
Mhm.
front of people, like playing music, that's always been like I can see myself doing that. Like
How
it's
long have you been thinking about that?
forever. Not forever, but like
Forever.
since I've been playing guitar and like playing in bars and stuff, I had the opportunity when I was younger. I in elementary school I started taking guitar lessons, and my guitar teacher Anthony he does these like open mic night kind of things. It's not really like open mic night where you walk up and like you can just like play a set, but like it's like his kind of like guitar.
Students?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much just coming up there and like playing like classic rock songs for the people in the bar. That kind of got me used to playing in front of people, and then it was like, well, what if I could like jump around on a stage kind of thing, you know? Like I don't know.
I
It
know exactly what you
yeah.
mean. You know what was that moment for me?
What's up?
Was seeing Pepper. So Pepper
Mm.
is their like a reggae rock band.
Oh,
I
you
s
told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them for the first time. I think it was 2008. I was maybe sophomore in high school, something like that. Went with my brother and my cousin. We get to the show, and another one of my favorite bands, Pacifier, they're playing, and they're like, that's like really they were the first band I ever saw that was like a real band that was like a show that I
Yeah.
wanted to be at playing on stage. And this is in New York City, and that was awesome. And then the Supervillains came on, and then Pepper comes on, and I remember looking at that like this looks like the most fun I've ever seen any adults having in my whole life. I want to do that. Like that's what I want to
Yeah.
do. They were going fucking nuts, and their whole thing is they put on a great show. That sometimes like sound wise, it's not that good. Like
Yeah.
they make great songs, but when they play, sometimes like they're just like
You don't
all
have that
over the place.
control. Yeah.
But like no, because they're going crazy. But it doesn't
Oh,
even
that makes
matter
sense.
because the show is so much fun
Energy.
that the
Yeah.
songs are fucking awesome. So even if it's not like played perfectly and
Yeah.
oh my god, we missed a note, they're like, we don't care. Like we're here to
Yeah.
party. And I remember seeing that. That was like the moment where I'm like, that is what I want to do. Let me find out. Like, however the fuck I got to do this, let me do that. And that's how I ended up being in bands, different bands over the course of I don't know 7 or 10 years, kind of thing.
Live music is something different. I think I had a really cool first experience, but I don't think it really like set the tone for what live music is really like. I got to see ZZ Top
Hmm.
at the Naples Philharmonic, and I had been like familiar with the music. I wasn't like a crazy ZZ Top fan. I listened to a whole lot of classic rock when I was little, so I was definitely familiar with it. Um, but it was just a bunch of people sitting down. Like it was just like kind of like a whole audience full of like people, and like they're on stage and they're having a really good time, but like there wasn't a whole lot of energy. Like, and then I went to a year later, I went to a Green Day show, and I was sitting in the back with my dad. We're like in this giant amphitheater, and in West Palm Beach, and I was kind of like I was hearing the music, but I wasn't really like immersed in it. So I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna go run up into the not the pit, but like just up into the like crowd kind of thing."
Hmm.
And it became like so much more immersive. Like everybody's jumping on beat, like everybody's like getting fucking crazy to it. It was a little bit crazy. There was like some fights around me and stuff, but like people were jumping and moving, and it was so much more like real live music.
It's a cool feeling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then recently, last year, I went to the Still Woozy show, and that was like completely different experience. Because at Green Day, I was like probably thousands of feet from like the front stage. That was like could probably only get like a few hundred feet before you got to like the seats and everything. And then at the Still Woozy show, it was at the Janice Live, so you're just right there in front. Like it was fucking crazy. I was in the thick of the crowd. They'd be like, "You guys like not fuck." What was it like? They were saying something over and over. It was like, "I don't hear you guys," kind of thing, and
Yeah.
everybody would fucking scream. It was the loudest thing ever, but it was the most immersed I've been in like live music.
Janice is a great place. I
Yeah.
saw there's a band, what are they called? Bring Me the Horizon, I think it was.
Hmm.
And they're like a hardcore band. And
That would go crazy in there.
and yeah, it was nuts. And so there's a tree in Janice in the back, and they crowd surfed the guitarist to that tree, and then he climbed up the tree and finished the set from the tree.
That's fucking awesome.
It was pretty badass, but I remember the security was like
I don't know
trying to block him from being able to get on the tree, and everybody was pushing him up, and they were like literally pulling his legs while he's there with his guitar trying to climb this tree. It was like, fuck off, like in trying to climb. He ended up climbing up there. The security just gave up, and then he finished the set playing from this tree.
I don't know if that tree's there anymore. I wonder why, but
they could have been the ones that freaking knocked him off.
Have you seen the what was it? I think it was Chris Comstock from Rage Against the Machine when they I think they inducted like Limp Bizkit into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something like that. At the Grammys, he jumped on top of like a statue or climbed it and fucking sat there with like the cameras on him until they cut to like advertisements.
Really?
Really fucking funny stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the cool part about going to these live shows is you don't always know what's going to happen, but you get to experience the music in a different way than you do on the recording. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's some bands that I love, but if I hadn't seen them initially live or at least heard them and then saw them live and go back and listen, I wouldn't have that context and I'd be like, whatever. Pepper, 311 is a big one. Saw Pacifier. That band I told you I went and saw when I was like in Texas last time, Citizen. Like I got to see them. The first time I ever heard of them was live in Tampa at the Orpheum, something like that. And I saw them live and I was like, this band is fucking awesome. And they had a EP called Young States. And I remember I listened to that a bunch and just been a fan ever since. And yeah, some of that stuff is so cool. But then I'll play some of their stuff for my friends who have never seen them live and also are just hearing them for the first time in their late 20s, early 30s. And they're like, yeah, this isn't for me.
It's hard.
That is a big part of it though. Like your age right now is a few years before your age, and a little bit after are going to be some of like the most like, I listen back to the music I was listening to in that time. And that's some of my most like to the core music, you know?
I like
13 to 23, probably.
That's when I started like kind of getting obsessed with music. Cause when I was in elementary, I just listened, like it would be in the car and stuff like that. It was just classic rock. And then, weirdly enough, I watched a whole bunch of YouTube content, just like video game playthroughs and that kind of stuff. There was this one YouTuber I watched that used like all this no copyright sound, like EDM stuff. And that was like the first like genre that I really dove into was EDM. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it was fucking called EDM. I was like, these are cool. And I would play them every day, like on the way home. And then the next year I got into I was like, I like this classic rock stuff, but I need like something that's like more energetic, like more ADHD for like a kid like me. I fucking loved Green Day and like Smashing Pumpkins and like grunge, like hard rock, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know something funny? Chelsea, the one who came on here, she worked at 93X. That was a hard rock station, and I don't think she wanted to talk about it. I'll talk about it. I think they fucking rebranded to like country, and that's kind of why like they probably released her or something. Probably not like why they released her, but like the whole rebranding thing, they like during COVID, they went from hard rock to country.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I remember that station and I remember hearing it. And there's one thing we always tried to do is we tried to get on there like local artists. I think I can't remember if we did get a song on there with one of our bands. I can't remember if that was with Eons or Opposite States. I think we did have one of our songs.
That's play really cool.
On the radio or something. If I'm remembering,
really fucking cool.
Right. I could be making it up that we maybe almost got it on there, but I distinctly remember something like that. And I don't think I even heard it on the radio. I think somebody told me they heard it.
That's
on
the
radio.
Coolest thing though.
Yeah.
Like finding out from someone else.
Well, that's the cool part about doing some of this shit is like you put it out and most of the time you're like, what the fuck's the point of doing this? I don't know who's listening or whatever. And then people would be like, oh yeah, I saw your thing. And you're like, you saw this? Like this podcast that we're doing right now. This was what I started with. And I interviewed a guy named Connor Furmender, and he was talking about like seasteading and all this stuff. And then I met somebody else that kind of knew him, but I didn't know they knew him. And they had listened to his episode of the podcast and didn't know that I was the host. And
Hmm.
then I finally was talking to her and talking about coming on the show and like giving her information. She's like, "Oh, I've listened to like a 2 hour long interview that you've done." And I
That's
was like,
fucking cool
on
though.
the podcast that I'm going to be on. And I was like, that was another one of those moments where I was like, "Oh, you don't know what this is." Like,
Yeah.
you think that you could figure out exactly who's listening and all this stuff, but you have no fucking idea how this really will go out into the world.
Putting yourself out there is a weird thing. You
It
remember when I
is.
made the LinkedIn for here?
Mhm.
I think I saw the other day I have like people from my high school. I'm assuming like admin team, like kind of guidance counselors and shit. They're looking at my page now and shit like that. Like I'm getting notifications from people from Barron Collier viewing my page.
Right? Isn't
It's
it
like,
strange?
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
completely different way of putting myself out there. But like,
but it's another form of it. It's important to do, man. I think as you go through and you start to build your professional career, I definitely would say keep building your LinkedIn connections, build them with
I
local
got to do that.
people.
Yeah,
Take 5, 10, 15 minutes a day just to go through and find people that you can connect with and find people at these different companies. Like as you're building the prospecting lists for me, like go through and you can connect with those people. And
I got to build a prospect list for myself.
well, and honestly, it's going to change all the time. Like you see the different ways that we changed and the
Yeah,
different companies we were targeting to buy and all that stuff. Like I'm connected with such a wide variety of people in aviation, local businesses, small business owners, marketing director from these bigger companies, all this different kind of stuff. And just connect with as many people and interact with as many people as possible as you can. And I don't think that really contradicts what we were talking about before of like the difference between the real world and
yeah,
online. You don't want to get sucked up in it, but you also can look at it as a tool for connection.
yeah.
And as I'm looking at these different businesses that I want to try to work for and go do sales for, that's part of the way that I'm assessing things is like, will it be will LinkedIn be a resource for me to be able to use and connect with the people that I want to connect with? And what does that industry look like and how saturated is that with people sending LinkedIn messages
Yeah.
and saying, "Hello, you need to talk to me. Let me tell you about the service." Like, okay, do most of the people in this industry have 20,000 followers? Fuck. Well, do I really wanna have that be my target
Yeah.
people? Because everybody's hitting them up. "Hello, I am podcast producer from,
Yeah.
Singapore, can help with podcast. Hi, I'm Chet from so and so. I wanna talk to you about how I can save your business." It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you get bombarded with all this different stuff, and I don't necessarily want to try to sell into an industry that's bombarded like that. I would almost rather go into an industry where people are they use LinkedIn, they're on LinkedIn, but when you look at their activity, it might say they haven't posted in a
Yeah.
while, or they liked something or posted something a month ago. Cool. If you reach out to them and you can give them real value, you're not going to be another person just bombarding them. Like you can make that connection. So that's what I'd say is as you do this and as you grow it, just keep connecting with people and just literally hit connect and don't put a message unless it's somebody that you know and there's like a reason to put the connection message. Just put the connection. Over half of people will connect with you.
Hmm.
You probably got to take a picture and put something up there so they know
Yeah,
who you
that's
are. That
a good
will
point.
help. But then just post like somewhat helpful things or things that you've learned or noticed and interact with people's stuff and just say, "Hey, that's a good point," or just like something and take a small amount of time to get comfortable doing that and think of it as best you can as like a translation to the real world and how you would interact with somebody in the real world. And that may even help you with some of the things that get in your head
Yeah.
about interacting with people and being nervous. Cause I have that too. I have the uh, nervousness to interact with people because the way I look at it is you are sharing a part of yourself.
I've been going to FGCU for 2 semesters now. I still get fucking like cold hands when I'm like walking into class and shit.
Yeah, well, you're in a room of 30 to 50, sometimes 100 other people that you also think they've got it all figured out. You think that they know what's going on. You think that you're less than them, or you're worried that they're going to think something of you. And as I go through this journey myself, and I literally get that feeling every time I go to pick up the phone to do a sales call. So just be prepared that it's never gonna go away. If that's your disposition, it's
I
not
got you.
gonna change. I have the same thing, and it would be like, yeah, you're on camera all the time. You must be confident. You must love all this stuff. You can talk to anybody. I can talk to anybody, but it
It's
doesn't mean that I don't get that feeling.
I know. I've found that like I can kind of pull myself out of like psyching myself out if I focus on like not like getting out of the moment, but like actually yeah, pretty much getting out of the moment. Like for instance, I was supposed to go to meet Zane somewhere. And I was fucking terrified. I had never like really gone out to meet him outside of this or anything like, and on top of that, like I didn't really want to see the people in there kind of thing. Like I hadn't been to this place in like months, and I was driving there and my hands were fucking sweating, and I like immediately started thinking like the content that I make for YouTube. Like I was just doing like these 10-second tip things, and I made myself think about like 5 different ideas for that, and I just kind of like stopped thinking about where I was going for a second, and I came back to the moment, and I was like, huh, a little bit calmer. I can kind of walk in there now. Like, I don't know. I really have to like yank myself out of the moment sometimes because I get so fucking like, I'm really bad about like escalating, isn't the word, I guess. Like, what is it? Overthinking? Not just overthinking, though, like letting things get out of hand. Like,
You get into that like thought
yeah,
cycle, and it's just like, well, this and then this can go wrong, and that can go wrong. And
yeah,
fuck, what are they gonna think about that and all this shit? Yeah, I know how it goes. I do that, yeah, all the time. And so one of the things I notice that makes that better is the act of just doing and going and being like, well, it's like somebody I watched a video, and somebody said sales is like this, and it was like a little kid jumping on one of those platforms. You know, those things that spin around, and they're like, it's
oh,
like
the little
a
wheel thing.
foam pole, and you have to like jump over it or
Oh,
duck
that thing.
underneath it.
Yeah,
And this kid was just like get
getting
fucking
whacked.
whacked, fall off, get back on the platform, legs taken out from under, and go back, get smacked
Jeez.
again. It's like sometimes that's what it's like, and that's what you have to still put yourself in that spot, not to the point where you're gonna like really damage your reputation or something
Yeah,
like that. But sometimes you just have to do it and just go and do that thing anyway. Like there's plenty of times I don't want to go to jujitsu, and there's been plenty of times that I didn't go because I didn't want to go. And I feel like shit. There's been plenty of times that I didn't want to sell and I didn't sell. Now look where I'm at. It's like, like I'm going and finding a
yeah,
job. And it's like, by avoiding these situations, you don't really make anything better. You don't get to grow as a person. Um, but that fear hits everybody in different ways. Like you might look at somebody who's super confident, they're afraid of something, they're afraid of something else. And I don't know, you don't get to go through life um, without the possibility of risk
yeah,
and like getting hurt in some way emotionally or
yeah.
thrown off. And let me read this to you actually. I think you'll appreciate this. I just heard this poem today. I'll
Hmm.
read you a little poem.
Sounds good.
It's called Invictus by William Ernest Henley.
Hmm.
So, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
It's a good poem.
Yeah. And I heard this from, I'm listening to Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's getting a grip on that fear is it's like a critical piece of life.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on it. And I don't think you're ever gonna be
Yeah. I'm getting
done.
better though. Getting a lot better.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well, you gotta keep working it because you've gotten a lot better since we started doing this. I remember, like you said, when you first got here,
Yeah.
you were asking me, "Hey, do you mind if I move my elbow? Do you mind if I stand up?" Like I was
Yeah.
like, "You don't have to ask me to go to the bathroom, Ty. Like you can go to the bathroom. You mind if I get water?" And I have seen you in the past 6 months of doing this really grow, take on new things, get feedback, make things better, edit. Like you've taken on a new skill. You solved the debleed problem that I had. You solved the channel growth problem that I had. Um, you've done a lot. You've grown a lot. So it's been cool to watch. So
Grown a hell of a lot.
yeah.
Like,
So thank you for everything so
thank you for
far.
everything so far. Like,
And we'll keep working this thing. We'll figure out how to make this thing grow. We'll see where it goes. And I think it's well, we're gonna be in the same office,
Yeah.
but I think it's a temporary sidestep, but that's how I see it.
looking forward to some of this stuff though, because I keep thinking like we've got Huffman, we've got like a few different people that like still want to come and do this shit.
Yeah.
Then really excited to meet that Dwayne dude actually. Is he you been in touch with him or
No, we'll see what happens.
I got you.
We'll see what
But
happens.
like point being, like there's a lot in the works and I'm excited to see this stuff.
Same, man. Well, thanks for doing this.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.